Hello everybody, my name is Laura.
And I'm Sophia.
Hello everyone, we are Paula and Joran and we are 5th year students from the Jan van Brabant College from the Netherlands.
Bonjour, ladies and gentlemen.
Lord Wataibo. That means good morning in Maltese.
Dames en heren, guten Morgen.
Meine Damen und Herren, guten Tag.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are here to discuss important questions concerning Europe and its future, concerning our future. In some aspects, the current situation in Europe is not as stable as it should be. That's why it is important not only to conceive an opinion, but also share it with other people, receive feedback, and collect ideas for solutions of our problems. It's our future, and we have to participate now, because without our interest and our participation, there will be no democracy anymore. Thank you.
Κι ας μη μου έχεις χαρίσει ποτέ ένα χάδι ως τώρα, εδώ θα γυρνώ. Από πείσμα και τρέλα θα ζω σε τούτη τη χώρα, ώσπου να βρω νερό.
Je suis très fier d'être nord-irlandais parce que notre ville essaie continuellement de maintenir le paix et d'aller de l'avenir. Et je pense que c'est un bon exemple pour les autres pays qui étaient en passé historique avec le conflit. Merci.
Polish government makes lots of very fast changes in our politics. You should really hear about it because it's something that makes Poland now really interesting to hear about. Thank you.
J'aimerais juste dire à quel point on est fiers en France de pouvoir accueillir.
I would like to say what a privilege it is for us to host such institutions as the Parliament, and it's wonderful for us to be able to participate in such days as today with so many students, because it's very important for us to come together and to speak about things which are important to all of us. We're speaking about Europe because it really concerns us. Thank you.
How, in the light of the recent COP21 in Paris, affect the European Union's development aid to third world countries? Investing in green energy should be the clear choice in light of our progress towards a greener world and fighting climate change. But how will the European Union assure that our money goes into developing green energy instead of fossil fuel-orientated industries and infrastructure?
Nowadays, negotiations towards Turkey's membership are in progress. Do you believe that a country with no respect in human rights should it be included in European Union? Is this progress or not?
People who have been educated at great cost, both to their families and the public purse, are now working in wealthier countries which have not invested in them at all. There's no doubt that free movement of workers within EU is not only desirable, but a fundamental principle. However, here we are talking about a huge loss of human capital, making it harder for the weakest member states to recover from years of recession. Regarding the decisive role of EU in forging economic policies, isn't it high time that the EU took initiatives in order to boost employment and encourage young people to work creatively all over Europe, but also to have a future in their country? Thank you.
I want to ask, what is the EU doing about the growing nationalism in Denmark, England, and France, for example?
Quite some time ago, Europe has announced the possibility of the creation of humanitarian cordons in order to help refugees reaching Europe in a safe way. So is it still in program, or Europe has realized that it was too difficult to achieve and so it became utopic? And also, I would love to know what is the position of Europe regarding the selling of weapons. Thank you very much.
An out referendum next year, how can the EU ensure that the UK has a major role within the EU?
Unlike most European member states, Greece has not yet recovered from the 2008 European crisis. Most agree that the only way to overcome this crisis is to solve the problem at its base. Greek politicians seem to be afraid to make this change due to its high political cost. So why does the EU continue to loan Greece immense amounts of money, from which they expect to benefit, of course, without any long-term plan, like the fight against corruption and the development of the Greek educational system?
What do you think, and do you think that there should be things that make countries compete with each other, so people can choose if they can live, if they want to live in Germany or in Poland or in United Kingdom?
If you think the European Union should be something more than just an international union, should be something like the USA, a country, in fact, because I see that this is a solution to many problems that the European Union has, one of them being the lack of authority over its member states.
We're all aware of the austerity measures implemented in Greece. I can assure you there have been no benefits from the austerity regarding unemployment rates. The thing is, the economic policy is often formed behind closed doors from institutions like the Eurogroup. And I'd like to ask, what would the role of the European Parliament, the only democratically elected institution, regarding the economy policy? Thank you.
Well, Europe is based on basic human rights, and it's supposed to exist for its humans. But I see that today everything has to do with money and wealth of the strong nations. So how can we approach this problem in order to create a Europe for its people?
You've talked a great talk today about democracy and how there's a great range of parties here from the extreme right to the extreme left. But do you not agree with me that in the recent example of Greece, that the EU is more than happy to throw out its democratic principles when it doesn't get its own way? Do you think we should interfere in this way, and if so, can you explain why?
I don't know, do you think if the migration will continue strongly in the future, won't people who immigrate in another country appreciate their country as more as they did in the past, and will the poor countries lose their population slowly?
Do you think that the European Union would find a solution to the refugees crisis soon? Thank you.
Why is the EU so passive in these conflicts? Why doesn't we do more against it?
And my question is, do you think it would be good for the future of the European Union to create a common educative program to make easier the exchanges of students and teachers between European countries? Thank you.
If the UK votes to leave the EU, what do you propose would happen to the borders between the north of Ireland and the Free State? This is particularly relevant to the Derry people due to our close proximity with the border and the fact that not only people who live in the Free State attend school and work in the north, but would the people who hold Irish passports have any effect on their ability for free travel in the European Union?
Another proposal from us is that promoting on social media and not on paper. Guys, we live in 2015 and we all have smart devices. So why do we need paper? Why? We all can just open Facebook and documents, and our propaganda is there. So why do we need paper?
And I think the use of paper is a tradition. And for example, I know so many people, they don't like to read on smartphones or on tablets, but they prefer books. And the other aspect is the produce of smartphones and of all those technical things, and also batteries in electric cars. Just the produce of those high-tech things that destroys our environment as well. And I think this aspect is more important than the cutting of trees, because the produce of paper is not as destroying the environment than the producing of high-tech. So I think, do you really think that it's better to use high-tech and to produce all those things, because then everybody has got to have a smartphone or a tablet, but do you really think this is in the solution better than producing paper?
I think that tradition doesn't need to have anything here, but you should know that on your second part of the question, I have an answer that nowadays really young people have tablets, so a really small amount of smart devices will have to be made more. But we can reduce a lot of quantities of paper. Okay? Thank you.
Firstly, we think that human rights are very important, so when it comes to limiting them, we need to have a just cause for that, and security must be at extreme rates for us to limit human rights. Now, I'd like to give you an example. In France, after the terrorist attacks, there was prohibition of demonstrating out in the streets. That was active so that more human rights wouldn't, more human lives wouldn't be lost in this big target. That would be the demonstrations. That would be a good example of how and when, only when we would limit human rights. Now, we think that a long-term solution does not lie in limiting human rights now or making security more strict. We think that making people aware of human rights, where their rights and where other people's rights begin. Now, to solve that, we would enforce education in school about human rights, about your rights, what you can do, what you can't do. Now we would enforce this by law, as well as the education itself would be next. Thank you for your attention.
I'm just wondering, did you put any thought into the right of privacy? Because when you talk about terrorism, that's pretty important, you know, find the terrorists before they strike. So did you put any thought into that? Because, you know, in order to check what people are doing, so they aren't doing anything bad, you're violating the right to privacy, and how do you plan to balance that?
We told you that we would be enforcing this in schools, in kindergartens, with education, and this education enforced like a lot more than we know that there's a lot of emphasis on human rights, on talking about it in schools, but we don't think it's enough. That we have to know does your freedom of speech end? If on social media you're promoting terrorism, this isn't something that's good. But if we would enforce talking about human rights, where is it good, when is it good, when is it bad, in schools, before that, we think that's a long-term solution, because there is no short-term solution to this problem. To answer your question directly, we would not intrude in privacy directly. Yes, thank you.
We were also asked to consider if the economic troubles we are enduring in the EU are reason enough to cut aid/development funding. We decided it is not. We are better off in the EU than the majority of these countries, as we do have one of the biggest economies in the world when combined. Regardless of our own problems, we are still mostly better off with food, water, shelter, justice, and even jobs plentiful. Things that are not as assured in less well-off countries such as Syria. We can afford this measly 6% of our combined budget every year, and it does not need to be cut because of our own problems. Finally, we were asked what kind of aid we think the EU should provide. This, of course, was a more contentious topic. In this, most of us agreed that education should be the crux of the EU development aid. We believe that if the European Union can improve other countries by helping them help themselves. If we just funnel money into these countries without educating the populations and ourselves, it risks wasting our effort and good intentions. If you give a man a fish, he will eat that day. But if you teach a man to fish, he will eat for the rest of his life.
Do you think that the EU should be working more closely with organisations such as UNICEF, especially with a lot of migrants, or sorry, refugees coming onto Europe now?
Yes, I think it definitely should. We probably do better if we pool our resources both as a union and, of course, with other very important organisations that do very good work, especially in regards to the migrant crisis.
The first step should be bridging differences through intercultural education and open the way for the Europe of mutual understanding. Secondly, ensuring a sufficient healthcare system for all should be a European priority. Also, Europe has to address difficulties united in diversity, and this is why internal conflicts should be avoided and relationships between member states should be improved. Last but not least, European Union has been the center of world politics for centuries and sets an example of modern democracy. This is why the big question that arises is how should the EU use its diplomatic power to contribute to global peace effectively? The first step is identifying structural weaknesses and take initiatives in a legislative level, common legal basis on foreign affairs. Then, member states should resort to armed conflicts only cases where diplomacy has not proven to be efficient in managing crises. Violence cannot be dealt with violence. We believe that together, all together, we can make it. The future belongs to the Europeans who dare. Thank you.
Undoubtedly, the European Union is facing some major problems regarding the relationship between its own members. How will the EU manage to solve specific problems like healthcare when the word union is at stake?
We definitely believe that integrated foreign policies are the only way to be together in facing external dangers. This is why we proposed identifying structural weaknesses in the institutional building of European Union. There have to be reforms in a legislative level so we can ensure a more integrated union which effectively promotes its values of democracy in all countries. And security, as you put it, is also a big issue. The answer is, the key word again here is integration. Together we are strong and we can make it.
So we agreed we want to close the external Schengen borders, not to keep them away. No, we want them to be registered properly and to put them in a EU country where there is a space, where there is the needed healthcare and where there is education. A main aspect we talked about was that it's crucial to change the asylum politics and the laws. They should be general, and for every country there should be the same asylum laws. Moreover, we need to get rid of those negative stereotypes that aren't true. Not every refugee is a terrorist. Not every refugee is likely to rape someone. We have big differences between our cultures. We need to teach them about our cultural habits and not blame them for not knowing about our culture. The next point we want to change is refugees should not be able to choose whether, where, or when they want to be in a country. They should be put there where there's enough space, where there's healthcare, and which country has the money and the space for taking them. Otherwise, some countries are going to be filled up with too much refugees.
We want that every country which entered the EU should have the same amount of refugees, depending on their size, of course. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ershad and I'm from Sweden. I myself am a child of immigrants from Iran. 17 years later, we have a Syrian refugee crisis. And every time I read the news, I see and I hear the same rhetorics all over again. That all countries in Europe should share the responsibility. Yet only 2 countries actually do that, Germany and Sweden. We all like to talk about how we should share all of these asylum seekers across Europe when only 2 actually accept them. And then you, Paula, you said that we should separate these asylum seekers and spread them out across Europe when only 2 actually accepted them. If I get to, if one asylum seeker gets placed into a country where that country has nationalistic and racist views, how should that person actually integrate to that country when everyone is excluding them? Thank you.
More job-specific education. This will allow people with a chosen career path to move on with greater ease rather than having unnecessary subjects that are weighing them down. Clamping down on untaxed work. This allows less money. This creates less money being put into the economy and stops people from getting money that they deserve off the government in order to achieve better tuition and easier student loans. More practical learning. For example, to learn how to work whilst in school, as well as the curriculum. This will make younger people more employable and will make them be able to move into the world of work easier. This will also make those educated more employable, as they will already have experience in how to work and that will have benefits as it will improve a country's overall work and will allow them to be more prosperous.
People in my country is living it every day to find a job, not even out of my country, but farther, like to America, to Asia. How would you promote to find jobs in the European Union?
Well, a good place to start would be better advertising of jobs available. For example, if jobs are available in the education sector, if these were advertised properly, more people would be able to apply for these jobs, therefore opening the jobs to more people. Also, more people being educated to the 3rd level would allow people not having to move abroad for work. People being educated to the 3rd level will allow them to move into work easier as they're better qualified.